35, a mother of a 4-year-old little boy. I'm a corporate professional. I wanted to join Letters from My Mama because I wanted not just for teen girls, but for teen boys to be able to see what it's like 20 years from now, see what it's like to go about life and after high school, after college, to understand what they may be going through right now. It's only temporary. That's it. Well, I was raised by my mother until the age of 8 when she passed away. From there, my aunt took guardianship of me. Losing a mother at a young age is pretty tough, especially for a young woman who pretty much that's all you know. Then with my aunt, who is a loving aunt, but she did not have that same kind of interaction and bond with me as my mother did. But I am still blessed that I was still able to be placed in a somewhat loving environment.
How was it growing up with your aunt as far as were you comfortable talking to her? Did she have conversations with you about sex?
Absolutely not.
And also talk about more about like as being a teenager going through like menstruation, just boys, different things, and then not having your mom because you know it's somebody watching in a similar situation.
Yeah, so when it came to my aunt was not a very affectionate person. She's never really been that way, and it's likely due to her traumas she experienced as a child as well. They all lost their mother, my grandmother, at a young age due to a very tragic crime. So when I was younger, of course, I didn't really understand why she was the way she was, but as an adult, as you get older, you get it. Not having your mother when needed at that age is really tough. It really is. The way I coped, even at the age of 8, 9, 10, and beyond, was I prayed. I talked to God. It wasn't just a prayer. It was literally like having conversations to God. And it's a lot that I did not learn because, again, there was no one that I could really actually talk to adult-wise. So a lot of things I had to figure out on my own when it came to sex itself. The only thing that I was taught was to not do it. The old saying, books before boys, like that was it, especially around that time. So I know that if I had my mother, it'd probably be a little different. But even then, I know that even though she wasn't there, my life could be a lot different if she was. So I'm still thankful for my aunt and taking on the responsibility of being my guardian. So yes, story about my father. So my father actually, he was in my life up until about 5 or 6. He actually, so little backstory, my mother was a drug addict. And that actually stemmed from my father when she met my father. That's how she started because he was also a drug user. And right before she passed away, he actually left. And I didn't see him for a couple years. But right before my mother passed away, I actually lived with him for 1 school year, which was quite traumatic for me because my mother, that school year I went to live with him, my mother her drug use was really bad, where she was unable to take care of me. And he felt like he could do a better job. But mother not knowing, his drug use was pretty bad as well. That 1 school year, my aunt, she came and got me, and I didn't see my father again until I was maybe 22, 23. And this was around the age of 8, right before my mother passed away. So between 23 and now, I've probably seen my father maybe 3 or 4 times. Because of him not being in my life, my relationship has been strained with him and that side of my family. I tried my best to have a rapport with them, but it didn't really work out well.
So, how do you feel like your parental relationships and also with your aunt, like your guardian, relationships carried over into your romantic relationships, or just how you moved as an adult?
Well, to be quite transparent, as an adult, I realized that I have abandonment issues with my mother no longer being there, my father not really ever being in my life, my aunt not being as affectionate. Like, you want that kind of love that you've never really had or you haven't had for long. So now as an adult, I would say probably about the age of 20, between about 28, I realized that I had these issues. And I started to work on them. Because I never really understood why, when it came to relationships with men, I was so, I want to say gung-ho, I guess. And I wanted to work so bad. But it's because I always had a fear of being alone. Because as younger, not having these type of adult figures in your life, that does bring up some issues that you will likely grow in until you really realize it and figure it out. They're going to stay. Well, for me, my thought process on raising Brayden is going to be, one, it's a boy, so that's already something in itself. But I just want him to be able to talk to me about any and everything. I don't want it to be him afraid to talk to me, feel like he can never come to me. I want to be his go-to. And of course, I'm not going to show him any judgment because that's my child. But I want to be able to inform him of all that he needs to know. Not learn on his own, not figure out on his own, not learn by actually being in those situations and like something like really bad happens. Come to me, let's talk about it. Let's have an open communication about everything.
Well, while we're talking about breeding, you know, something that we want to touch on is like co-parenting and how real it is to basically have a child when you're not married, and how that looks, like sharing your child, and how it take one time and you're a parent and then right, but you have to share.
Yes, you have to share. So when it comes to co-parenting, so I literally waited until I was 31. I got pregnant when I was 30, had Brayden when I was 31 to have my first child. I never ever wanted or imagined me being a co-parent. I always thought wife first, then mother. And God has his own way that he wants your life to go. But co-parenting is one of the hardest things that I've ever experienced in my life, because you want the best for your child. You don't want them to have any traumas. You don't want to be the cause of any of their traumas. And having to share your child with someone who may not have the same viewpoints as you when it comes to parenting, when it comes to discipline, even down to the very doctor they go to, the pediatrician they go to. Like, it can literally turn into something much more than you ever imagined. My suggestion, please, 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 wait until you find the right one that's really on the same mindset, the same wavelength as you when it comes to your children. Because not everyone, there are some lucky people in the world who have the best co-parenting relationships ever. But that's still quite sure that came with trials and tribulations, and it was a lot of work put into that. So before you have children, wait.
So your mom passed away when you were 8. So that's a childhood trauma. Did you have other ones? And also, did you experience therapy when you were a child?
So other childhood traumas. Yes, there have been some where, well, back to I can remember all the way back to when I was about 4 or 5. I remember the first time I seen my mother and father use drugs, and that in itself was something wow. Like you never really understood why they the way they are, but when you see it in person, it's like wow. Um, and then right before, maybe a year or two before my mother passed, my mother actually overdosed on drugs, and I'll never forget the day. Um, it was after school. Her and I were the only ones at home, and I went into the room and I literally saw her on the ground, and I knew something was wrong. And then back then, like because my mother was a drug addict, like we didn't have a house phone, so I recall having to run up to the next door neighbor's house, have them call the police. Luckily enough, they got there in time where they was able to save her. So that's been a couple that I recall that are very fresh in my mind, even almost 30 years later. As far as therapy, I am working on seeking therapy. I've actually tried multiple times, ironically, but every time I try, just my schedule and their schedule never happens. So I'm actually in the process. I'm in contact with one now. The reason is because you never really know why you do the things you do until you really like dig deep into yourself, until you start to like, why am I so angry? Why am I so sad? And you realize like talking to people that know you, like it helps, but it doesn't help. To be honest, a lot of those people are biased because they love you. Talking to someone that don't know you from Adam and Eve, like literally, they can give you perspectives that others can't. And as a mother, again, you don't want to put your traumas on your child. And you don't want the people you love, you don't want to add onto them and your traumas. So that's why for me, I feel it's best. I want to be better than what I was a year ago, 5 years ago.
Right. So talk about 15-year-old Candace. So did you like what you saw when you looked in the mirror? Like, let's talk about self-love, worth, and your journey to loving yourself, if you didn't then.
Well, 15-year-old Candace was a little mess. She was lost. Again, she was, even after 70 years of losing her mother, she was still trying to she was still dealing with that. She wanted to fit in, of course. High school, who doesn't? I do recall playing lacrosse. Well, tried to play lacrosse. I played softball. I played volleyball. And all of that was fun. Having those experiences are fun. But still not what was needed. I still didn't have the affection that I desired, the love that I desired from parental figures. So back then she was a lot more confused and a lot more lost than she is now. Now, I see where my life is. I know where my life wants to be. I love me way more than I did then. Back then, I kind of punished myself a little bit because I felt like I didn't deserve love, because if I did, why would all these people leave? And even though it wasn't like intentional, but now at the age of 35, I know, as they say, I know my worth. I know that those things are just life. Regrettably, that's just stuff that happens in life. And it's not any fault of your own. So me now, I love me. I love everything about me. And that's why I want to work to make myself even better than I've ever been before.
So talk to the girl. She's in high school right now. Maybe she's being bullied. Maybe she's depressed. Maybe she wants to fit in. She doesn't think she's gorgeous. She's comparing herself to people she sees on social media. Just talk to that girl. Like, what would you tell her?
Social media is a joke. I recently had conversations at work, and we all discovered like how social media, it's nothing but a front that people put on. There's nothing real about it. From celebrities who say they have all these cars and things, they don't own them. They're leased, they're rented. These big houses they're in, they're rented. Like they don't actually own the deeds to any of these. Love you and who you are. Love the moment that you're in. Don't allow the world to dictate who you should be, because the world is, to be honest, the world's a mess. It is a mess. And no one has it all together. No matter how much they may say they do, how much you may see on the outside, you never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Okay, so let's talk about like your virginity story. It's so crazy. So just like that, you know, were you a teenager when you lost your virginity?
Yes.
Okay, so sex as a teen. Just what you know now about love versus lust. Expectations, like situationships, like how to try not to get yourself involved in those kind of situations and scenarios.
All right, so I was 16 and a half and I lost my virginity to someone who I knew for a fact I was in love with. To be quite honest, that was my first boyfriend, and back then you hear everyone having sex. In school, like everyone was having sex. And to be a known virgin was like, what? It's like, no, that's a no-go. And I'll never even forget. I didn't tell him that I was a virgin. And when he found out, of course, afterwards, he was quite upset. And I didn't really understand why then, but I fully get it now. There's something very, very priceless to give yourself to someone. I don't know if many people believe in soul ties, but I absolutely do. And you giving yourself to someone it's heavy. It's heavy on you, it's heavy on them. And as a young woman, that's one of the things that I believe should be kept for the one person you really do want to spend the rest of your life with. Don't take it for granted. Don't do it just because everyone else is doing it. Don't do it because it seems like it's fun. Because heartbreak, when it comes to sex, it feels like, to be quite honest, it can feel like someone died. Like that type of loss. To know that you gave yourself to someone, you pretty much like you've given your all to someone, and then they're no longer there, they no longer want to be with you. It can hurt a lot, and it takes a lot to get over. When it comes to situationships, as an adult, regrettably, that is something that we all go through a lot. I really believe it's just because people aren't really understanding of love, or they're looking for something, they don't really know what they're looking for. Being upfront and honest on what you want from someone is very, very important. Being truthful about what you want from someone is very, very important. Because if you don't, and you tell someone what they want to hear, that's going to cause a situation in your life that is going to bring drama. It's going to bring stress. It's not needed. So just when it comes to it, believe people's truths. Believe what they tell you. Believe not just what they tell you, but they show you. Action is very, very important. Don't allow someone to tell you they love you, but here they are frolicking around with other people. That's not love at all.
So how can you tell what's the clear indicators of love versus lust? And also that we want the girls to know, like a lot of girls will put in situations where they'll have sex with people because they think it'll make them love them, and it's not the case.
Okay, so love versus lust. I will say that can be a very hard thing. That can be a very tricky thing, because you're physically attracted to someone, you're thinking like, oh my gosh, and they're doing little things here and there that you may like. But for me, realizing someone knowing you and all of your flaws and still wanting to be a part of your life in that way, despite all of it, that's love. Someone trying to change you, someone trying to make you just someone that you're not, or can accept who you really are, but they still want to be physical with you all the time, that's most definitely lust. I can tell you for sure, when it comes down to it, men and women are different when it comes to sex. As an adult, I've had multiple conversations with men and women and the difference. Like, why is it that women are so, when it comes to sex, they feel like it's love. Or even if, my thought is, even if like, well, you know, I don't love them, I just want to do it. Guarantee it, women, we are emotionally tied to sex. Men, on the other hand, for some reason, they are not. And not all men. There are some men who, when it comes to sex and being with someone physically all the time, they will develop feelings. But giving yourself to someone just because you think that'll make them love you, that absolutely will not. Greatest heartbreak. Greatest heartbreak, I can't even say I've ever had one relationship-wise, because for me, as I got older, that's just for me learning. It's teachable moments. There are guys that they may have been good guys, they just weren't good for me. But overall in life, for me to this very day, because it's still a very hard thing after almost 30 years, is losing my mother. That is my absolute greatest heartbreak, because I felt like with all children, your relationship with your parent is very, very important. And not just with your mother, with your father as well. But for me and my mother, even up until the age of 8, we had a very, very close, tight bond. And there are times where, as a mother, I just wish there were times where I could call her to like get different opinions and advice on raising this little wild child of mine. So to this very day, and it will likely be for the rest of my life, my greatest heartbreak. And I don't believe that's something that will ever just like go away. It's a loss. It's something that we have to deal with and learn from, but it's not the end of your world. It's not the end of your life. It makes you stronger. It does. Makes you see things the way you never may have saw them before. And honestly, it makes you appreciate people way more. Losing someone you love, it allows you to really understand what love is. So for my greatest heartbreak, the way that I deal with it is, again, as I've always done before since I was a little girl, is I talk to God, not just as a prayer, but literally a conversation. And There are times even now where I may have a really, really rough week. And I really wish I had my mother to call and talk to. And in that moment, say, okay, Lord, this is what I am needing. This is what I wish I could say to her. And for me, I'm a strong believer in God. So he sends people just out the blue. Not me calling anyone, not me telling anyone, and they give me those things. So that's why talking to him for me is very, very important. Having people that you love and trust in your circle that share a lot of the same beliefs that you do. Because sometimes they don't even know why they're calling you, or they don't know why they're texting you. They just feel the need to. And they give you exactly what you need. And for me, again, it's been almost 30 years since I've been gone. And that's how I've survived all this time. And it's not something that, like I said, is going to eventually just go away. It's a loss that will be carried throughout my life. But I know with the people in my circle, the people in my life that I love and that love me, I know that I'll be able to get through. When it comes to substance abuse, I have an older brother, my mother's firstborn, my brother Vernon, who we're 10 years apart. I'll never forget how heartbroken he was when our mother passed away. And you would think with that, we would have gotten closer. And I recall after our funeral, him telling me we're all we got now. That's it. It's just us. He's like, I'm always have your back. And shortly after my mother passed, my niece was born. So here he is, not even a year after his mother passed away. He's dealing with the first time being a father at 18. And he was going through a lot. And then he got his little sister that he's trying to worry about and take care of. And my brother started using drugs. And regrettably, here we are, almost 30 years later, and he's still using drugs. And the difference between him and I is I know what it does to the people around. I know the heartbreak it causes, losing my mother and technically losing my brother. To be quite honest, I still don't really understand how, after seeing what it did to the both of us, how he went that route. But unfortunately, some people are not just mentally strong enough with certain situations where they can handle it. And life becomes overwhelming. It really does. But I will say, how I always felt about it is, drug abuse does nothing but make everything 100 times worse. You forget about all of your problems, all your worries, but then it creates more. And once you get in, it's really hard to get out. And the people that have are truly blessed, because it literally is a downward spiral once you start. And I know some people who were once drug addicts and they turned their life around, but they will tell you what it took them to get out. And even after they got out, a lot of them have health issues, really bad health issues where their lives are in danger. And it could be 10 years later of them being cleaned from any type of drugs, any type of alcohol. Drugs is nothing but, it's a gateway. Can I say hell? It's a gateway to hell. It's a gateway to hell. It really is. Financial literacy all around. That is one of the things that I believe that I've come across a lot of people in my generation, our parents never talked to us about. Saving earning, credit, like how important all that stuff really is. They tell you, well, you got to get a house and you got to get a car, but how? How do I do it? How do I save? I want all this stuff. Like where, like you're never. They never prepared us for any of that. So we all learned as we go. But that I think that's something that I believe they prepare us for jobs. They prepare us for the workforce. But what about when we get the paycheck? What happens then? Another thing is entrepreneurship. I think that is huge. I don't believe that life is just about working for someone else, making someone else rich. Like, how do you have ownership, not just of a home, but of an actual business? Carry on and be able to, as Jay-Z said, generational wealth. How do we do that? Because working for someone else isn't going to do that. Preparing for the real world, I would tell myself at the age of 15, 16, stop worrying about everybody else. Everybody else is going to do their thing. You can help everyone else once you get to where you want to be. Don't worry about pleasing others. Don't worry about trying to make everybody happy by doing what they want you to do. Preparing for the real world is more than just going to college and getting a good job. Like, you have to survive life itself. All the other stuff is going to come into play.
Okay, so did you go to college?
No. So, well,
did you want to go to college or?
So I did a couple courses, but I'm not a school person.
So
I just went
that
to
in high school.
Did I know that in high school?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not know that in high school. I did not know I wasn't a school person in high school. It was always told, go to college,
right?
Do college, like that was the whole thing. But for me, at that point in my life, I was just like, I just want to go to work. Like, that's what I was taught. Growing up, my aunt and all the women in my family, they were all go to work, support your family, like, because all the women in my family are head of households. So it was go to work, support your family, support yourself. Don't ask anyone for anything. That's what I always thought about. And then not having like anyone to like, again, when it comes to that, I didn't have anyone to teach me as far as like financially and stuff like that. No one to really assist me in that. So for me, it was just going straight to work. But I will say, I do regret the experience, not having the experience of what college life would have been like.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I think that is something everyone should experience. It's a part of growing. Something that you never want to have regrets. So I do believe that if you are able to, go.
Okay.
And experience all that you can while you're there. Yes, so my family isn't a very tight-knit family. And it has been like that for a very, very long time. I want Braden to be able to have a much stronger bond with his cousins and the rest of his family than any of my family does. When it comes to wealth, I want to be able to start it, but I want him to carry on being able to continue his family with wealth. Not having to work until you're 60, 70, 80 just for a living, just to make a living. Peer pressure that's tough. That's tough. Especially in high school, because you want to be in the in crowd. You want to be liked by everybody. You don't want to be teased by anyone. You don't want to be put down because you're not, like, you don't want to do what they want to do. But when it comes to it, you have to be who you are. You can't allow someone else to convince you to do something that you know inside is wrong, you know inside isn't for you. That just goes back to drug abuse. Someone convinces you to do drugs. You don't know what it's going to do to you. You know it's not right. You know, like, it could be bad, but just because they're not bad, you don't know where their life is going to be 5-10 years from now because they want to be using drugs. And when it comes to sex, don't allow anyone to pressure you into being with them or make you feel bad about it for not wanting to be with them. Again, if you feel like that's not something you're ready for, don't do it because someone else wants you to.
So true friends. Are you still friends with anyone from high school? What are the characteristics of a true friend? And what characteristics give your friendships longevity?
So true friends. I'm actually still friends with someone I was friends with from middle school since we were 11. Her and I have been through a lot. Just being there for someone despite any and everything, not judging them. Sometimes people, like, as you grow, I always say you're gonna grow plenty of times, you're going to evolve throughout your life. You'll always be shedding a different layer of you. And sometimes, regrettably, there are people, like, there are friends that you thought will always be there that you outgrow. And that is okay. You don't have to be their friends because you've always been their friend. If they're still doing things that you know just aren't for you and what's best for you anymore, it's okay that you kind of like distance yourself away from them. I had a friend who, say, over 12 years ago, who I literally thought we were gonna be friends like 65, still like laughing and joking together. And once I started my current company, her and I distanced ourselves. Never really understood why, but again, we wanted different things in life. Our paths just kind of went apart, and it's not like it's any love lost. It's just sometimes you outgrow people, and that is okay.
Okay. Sorry, I just sent.
No, you're fine.
I sent Brittany a picture of you doing your interview.
No, my
she
God.
wanted to see the She's like, that looks good. She looks good. Okay. Alright, so we touched on basically everything. Let's see. Heartbreak. Talked about financial literacy. Okay, we can talk about positive body image. And well, I have other things in here too, but you talked about financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
But positive body image, as far like as it pertains to being a Black girl growing up, and how it starts kind of in the home. And what can you tell that girl that? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm getting real.
Thick girls, you know what I mean?
So, I recall at the age of 14, 15, my aunt telling me, you need to lose weight. I wasn't even a full-figured young lady. I was still slim, but I was a little chubby, not a lie. And I recall literally like her putting me on it was the cabbage soup diet. Yeah. And I felt kind of bad, like, am I getting fat? Like,
Mm-hmm.
And it was the thought of, fat is not it. Fat is not it. And then I lost a little bit of weight. Then I realized, okay, maybe right before junior year, I was getting chubby again. And then my mom said something. You need to lose some weight. You're getting too big. So I went on this extreme diet all on my own. Because I'll never forget what she said. You go on, when you go to school, they're teasing you. Like, literally. So on this extreme diet where I started out with 2,000 calories a day. That's how much I would eat every single day. By a month and a half, I lost 54 pounds. I would work out 3 times a day. And then next thing you know, that 2,000 that went to 1,500, then it went to 12. And so I went to the doctor, and my doctor asked me, how'd you lose so much weight? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, did you eat today? And this is it, afternoon. I was like, no. Not even thinking, like, why do you eat? I haven't been hungry. She was like, this is like you literally starving yourself. She said, it's great that you want to be healthy, but it's not a healthy amount of weight that you're losing. Like, who loses 54 pounds in a month? A month and a half. So it was, then I realized that I just thought too much about the way I looked and the way other people saw me. It doesn't matter what other people see, like, as long as I'm comfortable with me. So here we are, 30 years later, and I tell you, as a full-figured voluptuous, I love me. Of course, like with all women, we may have like something that we don't like, but overall, if and or when I do lose weight, I don't want to lose a lot of it because I love my thickness. I love everything about me. And it really doesn't matter who does it.
So what steps did you take to change, heal, or become better from your past, both personally, professionally, romantically? Like, your takeaway from the last 20 years of your life, basically.
I value me more than I have ever now in the past 20 years. I know that I don't allow anyone to treat me just any kind of way. Like, you're gonna respect me the way I respect me. And if you can't be a part of any of this. When it comes to, that's me as an individual. When it comes to professionally, corporate life, it has a lot of perks, it does. But working for someone else to continue to keep their generational wealth going in their family isn't doing anything for me in mine. So over the past couple of years, I discovered how much I wanted to change all of that. And I want to be able to own my own businesses. And there's nothing wrong with working with corporate at all. There is a motivational speaker, Lisa Nichols. I love her. And she has a saying, work to fund your dream. That is why you're there. That is why I am here doing what I'm working to fund my dream. Because once I get to where I want to be and save what I want to save, I know that is going to send nothing but pleasure in my life. And as far as relationships, I've grown a lot over the past 20 years. I can be quite honest. I used to be very controlling in relationships. Very, very controlling. Again, I had nothing but head of households, women as head of households in my family, and that is what I saw. That is what I knew. But the way they were was not all that good at all. They were very demanding. They weren't very nice. And I never really understood why their relationships didn't last until I got a little older and I realized, like, you treat people how you want to be treated. So I know how much of I'm a lover of love, and that's all I want to give. but I won't allow anyone to give me any less than that. Honestly, everyone touched on everything. There's nothing that, like, literally watching all the episodes, like, everyone touched on every single thing. I'm glad that there will be in season 2 more male perspectives, because that is what I was looking for. Other than that, like, I think season 1 was amazing, and I'm hoping that, praying that season 2 is just as amazing and will touch more people.
Okay, so when you lost your virginity when you were 16, and it was with your boyfriend at the time. So how did the relationship change after that?
Absolutely. To be quite honest, we weren't together much longer after that. And again, me knowing that I was not in love with that person, it was just because it was my boyfriend, and I knew later I realized that was something I should not have done. But he was not, I felt like he also cheated on me. So that was just a whole nother, like, so it was just, it was, if I could change that, I absolutely would. There's no doubt about it. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're gonna regret it. Like, your virginity is not something you'll ever get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. You have to make sure, one, the person is well deserving, and know that you deserve way more than someone who is pressuring you, who is like, well, everyone else is doing it. Like, you deserve way more than that. You are much more than that. All right, I don't want to get emotional. Love you before you love anyone else. That's major, especially when it comes to being physical with someone. Because honestly, that in itself, I believe you will see all the red flags in people. Like, you knowing who you are, you knowing what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate, like, that automatically. Dating, always had a 2-week rule. Didn't save anyone's number in the phone. Because I would I will look for red flags. And not because I want to see them, but truthfully because the world is so corrupt, and there are so many, to be honest, horrible people in the world that want to take advantage of you. I would always look for red flags. And if you weren't up to par just within 2 weeks, because people are gonna show it. They can't hide everything. They will do their best. They can't hide everything. Just give it time. Don't ever rush, especially when it comes to your virginity. Again, I can't stress enough, that's something you'll never get back. And you don't want to be like me, 35, like, what in the world was I thinking? Why? You don't want to do that. You don't. Lord willing, it'll be someone that, once you do, you're here in my seat, how you're talking about how y'all live in this big house with y'all beautiful children together, and y'all have like a wonderful marriage. That's what I pray for all, not just girls, but boys too. So, when it comes to toxic relationships, I'm sorry.
It's something like that too. Go ahead.
When it comes to toxic relationships, I will say there are a lot of people who stay in those relationships because they want love, or because they think the other person loves them, or they think they're gonna change. My whole thing is, when it comes to that, I don't care how many times someone tell you they love you. No one truly loves you by intentionally hurting you. By, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, no one, they don't love you. They may love what you can do for them. They may love how you make them feel. But if they don't feel good about themselves, they will always be that way. And then after a while, it diminishes who you are. And it takes a lot to rebuild that. And then that can carry on to other relationships in your life. So please, when it comes to that, stay away from those people. And you'll see it. You'll see the controlling. You'll see the jokes about you, but they're not really jokes. Them trying to tell you what you can and can't do. Having no faith in who you are and your dreams. So please do. And that's just not relationships, romantic, that's family, that's friends. You can't be a better you by dealing with those people. It's really hard, trust me. It's really, really hard. Okay, so back to when I was about 15, 16, still reeling from all the emotions of dealing with the loss of my mother. I was pretty suicidal. I never committed or attempted to, but it was in my mind quite a bit. Just because, again, I didn't have that loving environment that I needed to help me with my mourning. Because, again, that's something that mourning isn't just for a few months or a year. That lasts for a very long time. So when it comes to, just know that when it comes to suicide, that's a hurtful thing. That's a very, very hurtful thing. And it's not something that, the thought of it, just because of how you're feeling in that moment, that will pass. That will go away. I promise you, it does go away. Though all the overwhelming feelings, all the overwhelming emotions, whatever issues that you may be going through in your life, those are only momentarily. That is not forever. But you no longer being here is forever. And think about what it's going to do to the people that you love around you. Now they have to deal with your loss. And again, loss is something that never goes away. Know that you are loved, you are appreciated, even though it may not seem like it right now. You really are. And not just the people in your life right now. Think about your future husband or your future wife and your children that will be. They need you. It was not in God's design for you not to be here. When it comes to anxiety, that is something that I recently started going through in the past 3 years or so. And it's a doozy. It's a real doozy. But how I started dealing with that is I literally started praying more. Just asking for peace when I'm feeling that way. Started meditation. Being in a very peaceful environment. And it literally calms me. And it reduces all of what I'm feeling. Because normally when my anxiety does come about, normally it's a lot going on in my life. And that's hard. But literally take time out every day. Whether it's the morning and night. I personally like to try to do both. Sometimes the midday, because sometimes that's when stuff is going on in the midday. But take time out to collect yourself. And just be at peace and know that you got it. It's good. It's going to be good. Everything's going to work out fine. Okay, great.